Hello and welcome to the live stream with Drug Free Clubs of America. Whether you are catching us live or watching on a replay, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for taking the time. My name is Angie Ferguson. I'm the Executive Director of Drug Free Clubs, and I'm excited today that we have an amazing guest with us who I will tell you a little bit more about in a moment. It is Assistant Chief Scott Rotolo from Wooster, Ohio. And I'll tell you a little bit more about him in just a second. For now, I want to let you know how excited I am that it is race day for the Buck 50. That is the biggest event aside from the rally that we were not able to have last year with the students in Ross County. But the Buck 50 is a 150-mile relay race that's in Ross County, Ohio. There are teams of 10 that run the 150 miles. And they leapfrog over each other across the county of Ross County to meet myself and our program director and all of the kids who are in drug-free clubs, or some of the kids who are in drug-free clubs in the area at the finish line. The students who are members give them race medals, and it's just a wonderful day altogether. So we are so pumped. It is an overnight race, so there will be no sleep tonight. You can see right here on the screen, this is Dave Huggins. He's the race director and also one of our staff who helps all of our programs be successful. So we will be at the finish line. Thank you to all of the runners who take the time to train and just run it in general. I love following your messages all year long. So I am pumped for race day, as I'm sure you are as well. Second thing is I want to touch on the fact that our scholarship entries have started to come in. We've got several. These are just the ones that were in the mailbox today. If you are a coordinator who hasn't sent in your scholarship information yet, this is essentially, use the envelope we gave you. You send in your top essay choice. You send in the other entries. And then it goes on for judging from there. The prize, there is one award of $2,000. Then there are runners up of $1,000 each, and then finalists at $500. So we are very excited about that. The next phase is that it gets broken down to, or dwindled down to 10 top winners, and then those get judged in the community among probably about 40 judges. They each vote on their favorite one, and then whoever gets the most votes wins the scholarship contest. The winners are announced this year on May 15th, I believe. So keep an eye out for that. So about our guest. Today we have Assistant Chief Scott Rotolo. He is in Wooster, Ohio. And I am so thankful to have him with us because he has a really great perspective on not just substance use and abuse. It's more a community health perspective. He is not only a graduate of Bowling Green, not only an assistant chief in Wooster, he is also a graduate of the FBI, I gotta make sure I say this right, FBI National Academy, a graduate of the Police Executive Leadership College. His bachelor's from Bowling Green was in sociology and psychology, but currently he is a consultant for the Ohio Association of Chief of Police. And then he's the president of the Boys and Girls Club in Wooster. So I love that he brings that community perspective into the conversation as well. All of this, he's also on the board of trustees and a parent of teenagers, among other things. So I'm going to bring Scott on the screen here. Hello, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me.
We're so glad that you took the time to join us. There's one thing in your bio that we didn't talk about ahead of time, but I'd like to maybe ask you about it. There's something in here about you're a member of the Wayne County Juvenile Delinquency Alternative Initiative. What is that?
One of the big pushes nationwide revolves around delinquency alternatives. Kids who go into detention facilities, there's studies that show that that's not such a good thing, that those are the types of environments where they further perpetuate criminal activity as they go through time, that detention isn't always the best remedy for some of the issues that they're having. And I'm really proud to serve on that committee through our juvenile court with our juvenile court judge to look at new ways to deal with kids who are having trouble with some of my people, and also at home. A lot of times our officers get called out for kids who are just having a bad day and are going to run away, and really the best choice isn't to take them to the we have it here, it's called the attention center or a detention facility. And we did a sequential intercept mapping project where we identified a lot of different things that we need to do better. And I really have enjoyed that process. And we're actually looking at developing a matrix to determine whether or not it's even appropriate for a young man or a young woman to be taken out to a detention facility if they are involved in criminal activity. So a lot of stuff that we're working towards.
Wow, that's interesting. It's interesting how that parallels what's happening in our field with just substance use in general, and that mind shift to get people to understand it as a physical disease, something that they are living with every single day, to approach it from a caring perspective, not just from a punitive perspective. So it's perfectly in line with that, don't you think?
Yeah, I think as a profession, I've been a law enforcement professional for 20 years. And when I first came on the department, our culture was different. Our culture handled juvenile delinquency. Our culture handled, folks who were in mental health crisis. Our folks handled people who were suffering from addiction in different ways that always weren't the most efficient or effective. I think as a culture at our department, and I think as a profession overall, and I know in the state of Ohio, because we do a lot of things through NAMI and with CIT, we've really shifted our mindsets as a profession, and I can speak specifically for the Worcester Police Department, to really understand, why folks are doing the things that they're doing, and that, again, as one of the topics I'm going to speak today, we're not going to arrest our way out of a lot of the problems that we see.
Yeah. Well, and that leads us in perfectly to the next piece, because no matter where I go, we have clubs in Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia. I've talked to people in Florida, Louisiana, Michigan. No matter where I go, when I talk to people in law enforcement, I hear this common thread, even among our board members, saying, we're not going to arrest our way out of this. So was there a time when it even seemed like arrest was the way to find our way out of this epidemic? And maybe can you talk a little bit more about what that means exactly? We can't arrest our way out of this.
Yeah, I mean, historically, when you go back, when you had the war on drugs and some of these other things, law enforcement, and still to some degree, unfortunately, on a lot of things, law enforcement is a lot of times looked at as the problem solver, regardless of whether it's something that, perhaps we're not the best tool for it. Law enforcement has been looked upon to solve the problem. When I interview young candidates who want to be officers, and I'll ask them, what do you think we do all day? And I'll tell them, after they answer the question typically incorrectly, I say we solve people's problems. People call us because they have a problem and they want us to solve it. And one of the ways that we used to solve problems for a lot of things was we would put people in jail. And that's not always the best remedy. When it comes to substance abuse, by the time we get to it, we're being reactive. Even if we're doing proactive drug interdiction or some of these other things that we do with traffic stops and drug surveillance, it's still a reaction, because the people that we're watching or we're stopping have already taken that first step to substance abuse. And throughout my entire career, I've made it a point to really try to understand that and look at different ways of doing things, because, again, I'm all about efficiency and being effective, and it's just not an efficient way, and it's not an effective way. And just through my time, really the best thing that we can do is be a part of prevention. Now, that's not to say that we don't play some role in it. It's not to say that there's times where, we're called upon where, listen, there's an arrest that gets made or charges get filed. It's part of the system, but it's not always the answer. And we are not going to be the sole entity or profession to solve this issue. It's about collaboration. It's about ideas. It's about looking at things differently, and just working with our community partners and the various different skill sets.
Right.
That's how we work towards solutions and to make our community healthier and safer.
Yeah, even in my own work, being in prevention. So you're on the punitive side of things, and we're on the prevention side of things. And even in my own field, I've been doing this for 15 years. And I can tell you, when I first started back in 2005, the phrases like substance use disorder weren't as prevalent at all. I don't think I heard them until much later. That could be a combination of my own learning curve, as well as the way that society was catching up to the disease state of addiction. So I don't think that that's just in law enforcement. I think it's a shift through society in general.
It is.
Yeah, yeah. So can you tell me, in your community work, especially Boys and Girls Club, serving on advisory councils and stuff, can you talk about prevention that you have seen work, and maybe anything you know about drug-free clubs, what you like, what you seem to feel like are the biggest strengths to sort of lean into?
I think from my perspective, going through time, it starts at home. I really truly believe in my heart and soul that, and again, I have this kind of unique perspective too. I have a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old. And my number one theme in our house is to always do your best and to lead by example. And I think as parents, and again, I'm going to take off my police officer hat for a second. I think just setting a good example at home as parents, having positive conversations with your kids about substance abuse. One of the things that I used to serve as the chairman of a coalition. It was called Circle Coalition, and basically our mission was to work with youth in the various schools to prevent them from using drugs and alcohol, with the hope that over time they would take that into their later life. It was an absolutely fantastic program, and we still have it here in our community. But one of the things that we themes we had, or a big push that we did, and it was right around this time of year. It's called Parents Who Host Lose the Most. There's this misconception, I think, with parents that, well, if I have the party at my house, or if I let my child smoke marijuana, because they're going to do it anyways, I might as well do it in this safe environment. And
we hear that a lot.
And I will tell you, that's not always the best choice. There's things in Ohio Revised Code that parents are permitted by law to give their children alcohol in small amounts. Obviously, we're not proponents of making your children intoxicated, but there's religious beliefs and some other things behind that. And I'll never, infringe on anyone's right to do that. But I think the idea behind that is, a glass of wine at dinner for a religious ceremony or some of these other things. But parents sometimes think, hey, if I have the party at my house and I invite other of their kids' friends over, that's the best thing to do because it's safer. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that's illegal. That's not good. We have a zero tolerance policy on something like that here in the city of Worcester. So that's from an alcohol perspective. But from a drug perspective and a substance abuse perspective, when our goal ultimately at the end of the day is prevention, our as parents, we're the leaders of our family. We're the folks that our kids look up to. They will emulate and they model behavior. And if I'm conveying a theme that it's okay to smoke marijuana or do other types of drugs, you're condoning it. And regardless of, again, the political themes right now of decriminalization of marijuana and some of these other things. The fact of the matter is it's still illegal, and to permit it in your home, I just think sets a bad example, especially from the perspective of, we're trying to prevent our kids from starting, and I think by allowing it doesn't portray that. But again, programs like this are absolutely fantastic. I've always loved the fact that Drug Free Clubs of America really kind of works off of you're giving the kid an out. Hey man, I can't take that because I'm going to get tested. And then you multiply that by positive reinforcement with some of the things that you're doing. These are the types of programs that work. These are the types of things when you have a community-based program like this, you have positive reinforcement at home that work. And I will tell you as I'm going to put my law enforcement professional hat back on. Going back to we're not going to arrest our way out of this. I really find as though that sometimes parents will call the police and say, hey, come and talk to my kid and scare them into not using drugs.
Yeah.
Tell them if they do it, they're going to go to jail. That's not always the best strategy, not just from, we don't want people to be scared of us, obviously, but I think it should always be more based in examples. It should be based in positive reinforcement. I think statistically that works better than listen, I got the bald head and it's kind of shining right here. People sometimes think it's a little intimidating, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to scare people. I'm not here to, but I think it really involves everybody working together to prevent our kids from even starting.
Yeah, 100%. That's what it's all about. That's what we work for every day, to pull not just the community, but also the school and the parent and peers and the students themselves, all under the same umbrella, achieving the same goal of doing anything we can to help those kids have the tools they need to stay drug free, because they do face that ask. They do get asked, hey, do you want to? And they have to be prepared for that. So thank you for the work that you do out in the community and in your profession, and probably in your home, to set an example. It just goes to show that if you focus on doing it the right way, not necessarily the easy way, that you're going to get a better result at the end of the day. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. I will tell you, I have two fantastic kids. They take after their mom, thank God. I love my work in the community. I love my work at the Boys and Girls Club. It's a fantastic organization here that we have.
It is.
And I really appreciate you doing this and the work that you guys do. It's important. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to talk today.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate the compliments. It means a great deal. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that was a great little interview with Assistant Chief Scott Rotolo. I am closing up shop here in Cincinnati, jumping in the car with Heather McGowan, our program director, and we are headed to Ross County, to Chillicothe, to work the merch table at the race. And then tomorrow we will be at the finish line. So thank you again to Chief Rotolo and to all of the runners who have prepared for probably the entire year for this race. We will be up with you overnight. We will see you at the finish line. Bye-bye.